It's time for a brand new episode of the Desert Adventure Park. Today we are building the very first enclosure of our Jeep Safari ride. And it's a special one. We will be creating a highly detailed Hamadryas Baboon Canyon with the Safari Jeeps driving right through it. I have been waiting so long to finally build for these incredible animals and I am beyond excited to get started. I really hope you guys will enjoy the ride. Hello guys, this is Caesar Creates and welcome back to my channel. Today we are back in the Desert Adventure Park. Just as I promised you, I am bringing all of my Planet Zoo content back. And we also have a very interesting episode in front of us today because Caesar is kind of stepping into an unknown territory with this one. Not only I will be building for the primates, which you guys know I don't do very often, today we will build for the Hamadryas Baboon from the Zookeeper's Animal Pack, but also for the very first time on my channel, we will build a safari ride, a ride that is going through the enclosure. So we'll have a sort of like a drive-through baboon enclosure after today's episode. We actually started this desert Jeep safari ride in the last episode where I've built the station, but we didn't build any of the tracks for this, so this is our first episode of doing so. If you'd like to hear more about my plans for this entire Jeep safari ride, definitely check out the last episode if you haven't seen it. I will put the link down in the description and on the screen. I really like how this station has turned out. It kind of set the tone for all of this big attraction of our zoo, and now it is time to add all the enclosures to it. The first one, of course, being our lovely Hamadryas baboons. But I didn't want this ride to start right off the bat in the enclosure of the animal. I wanted to start the ride with this little like introduction or setting the tone of the entire ride. So first the guest will go through a little desert village, some decorated parts before actually driving into or inside of the first enclosure. So this is something that I am doing right now. I will add some desert rocks, a lot of dry plants, those huts or houses that we've built for the rest of the desert village. I must say that achieving a proper desert look is kind of challenging to me in this game. My building style in Planet Zoo is very like try to sort of fill in all the holes that you can see. So I don't really like the look of the sort of like exposed terrain. I need to have something in there. So that's not very ideal for the desert when you just have sand and nothing else. But I'm trying. I will really try with this enclosure today. So the first thing that you may notice when it comes to this ride is that I used a trick of hiding the actual tracks for the Jeep ride. If you don't know it, we can actually do it in Planet Zoo. All you have to do is go to the settings of your game and disable the track collision in the settings. This allows Jeeps or any other vehicles just to go through the terrain. So you can actually hide the tracks in the terrain if you will do it like very precisely. The tracks can be almost at the level of the actual like ground or the terrain. So it looks like the Jeeps are just driving through the terrain without this weird track. I have never seen a Jeep safari ride in any of the zoos that has this weird track. I don't know why Planet Zoo team decided to add it. It is sort of weird. I think that it can also be quite dangerous to some of the animals because it has this metal mesh on the bottom. So I guess that some animals can get stuck in it. Their like legs can get stuck, hooves or whatever. That's why normally you see the Jeeps just drive without any track. So this is something that I want to achieve in here, and that's why I'll be hiding this track as much as it will be possible. Unfortunately, while doing it, it is practically impossible to connect the track to the those airlocks or those like gates for the rides because for some reasons they just don't want to connect, but the Jeep can still just drive through it. They just won't open. So I was just okay with that and I just left it as it is. I tried to connect it, but I couldn't do it, and I was just like, okay, let's just leave it the way it is. It is my first time building something like this, so I don't want to make it too difficult for myself. I need to take a second to thank you guys for the amazing response and all the support that I got from you guys. After uploading my recent videos, you guys are just amazing. Coming back after a while to YouTube can be a bit scary because this platform likes and awards people who are consistent, so taking breaks from time to time isn't too good for the algorithm, but you guys made it amazing, so thank you so much. I am so glad that you liked the Komodo dragon build, and also a lot of you enjoyed my tour that I recorded of one of the zoos that was sent to me, so thank you guys so much. And yeah, more of videos are coming, definitely. I have this drive and spark back to build and to record videos, so we are all good, and more Caesar is definitely coming, so brace yourselves. So the rock wall that you could see me create was actually the beginning of the habitat for the baboons. It will actually have an airlock first, so the jeeps will just drive firstly into the airlock. It is one of the safety measures that I will use here to prevent the monkeys from escaping. Now, I actually saw a lot of different drive-through jeep safari rides through some primate enclosures. I did my research for this video. I was just wondering, what the hell are they doing to prevent the monkeys from escaping? Because you need to have a gate that opens and allows the cars to drive in, and as you know, primates are super smart, so they probably would see the opportunity to just, you know, run as fast as they can when they see the open gate. So there are actually measures to stop them from doing this or just prevent escapes. So the first one is definitely an airlock, and the airlock is sometimes bended just as I did, so you have this curve inside. Because of that, the monkeys cannot see the second gate, so they don't see that behind the gate that is opening for the car to come in is any of the open space or any path for them to escape any further. They just see the wall and they don't see what's behind the curve. They don't think it is worth escaping because they don't know what's in there. So this is sort of what we did. If a monkey decides anyway to go in there, I'm sure that there will be a lot of like cameras or other things. That's why we also added a mesh on top. So just to make sure that if by any chance any of the baboons will make it into the airlock, they won't be escaping through the second doors. The other safety measures that you'll see me creating later in the video are actually the hot wire. So I will just put the or add the hot wire all around the rock formations that we'll add in this habitat, and also around the gates. We'll also have a so-called hot grass, so sort of like electric wires that are shaped like little trees or little mushrooms or anything like that. They are placed on the sides of the gates so that the baboons cannot approach the gates from the sides. And there will be also something that I saw in one of the zoos. I think it was actually the Dubai Safari Park that this whole zoo is sort of inspired by. They had like this whole, it's kind of like a metal drain in front of the gate. So it is sort of like a metal grill or grate. That consists of those sharply ended bars, so I think that it feels unpleasant for the animals to walk on this, but it won't actually destroy the tires of the cars, if it makes any sense. But yeah, this is something that the zoos use, all of this stuff just to prevent the animals from escaping. So this habitat was sort of a lot because I had to plan a lot of things, I had to do a research, and I also came up with an idea to do all the rock walls that I normally do with a different kind of technique. So I decided to go for the base game rocks and just to create it using individual rocks. So I think there is around 3,000 of them when it comes to this entire rock formation, and I clicked every and I placed every by hand. So it was a lot of clicks and a lot of work to create this one. And also I found that working with the track, the Jeep track, is sort of difficult. I am not used to building those rides in Planet Zoo or in Planet Coaster even, so it didn't kind of want to cooperate with me the way I wanted. It was kind of hard to be very precise with how you want the track to flow, but in the end of the day, I am quite happy with what I did here with the Jeep ride. Now, when it comes to our baboon enclosure, first of all, I am so happy to be building for them. Finally, I was so happy when they were introduced to Planet Zoo with the Zookeeper's Animal Pack. I thought that they were really missing in the game. A lot of zoos have baboons, different species of them, so very happy to see them in the game and to build for them. Actually, during my recent trip to Tanzania, I had a chance to see the baboons in the wild and observe them for quite some time. They were actually the olive baboon, but I fell in love with those animals. They are so smart, they are so fun to watch. Their like social structures are so complex, and just such an amazing animal. So very happy to build for them. And the Hamadryas baboon is probably the most fancy, the most stunning one of all of the baboons, so very happy to have this particular species in the game. So I had this idea for this habitat to create sort of like a canyon, a baboon canyon. So they will not only have their regular like climbing frames that I will use a lot of different natural materials for, but they will also be able to climb on those rock formations. When it comes to real zoos, a lot of them actually have something like this for the baboons. So they normally have some rock piles or just rock formations for them so that they can climb. Baboons, just as for example the mandrills, are more terrestrial. They don't climb on trees that much. Of course they do from time to time, for example to have a look around or for any predators or just to hide from them on the trees, but they spend most of the time on the ground or on some rocks, some rock formations. So that's why the zoos often do that as well, and this is something that I wanted to create. And I had this idea to create this canyon, and this canyon will actually sort of like an entrance or the introduction to the actual desert that we'll create later for different species. So the cars first must drive through this canyon and then it opens up and there will be this huge desert with all the desert animals that we will add in the future episodes. So we have this canyon that happens to be filled with baboons. I really also wanted to add a lot of them. They live in big groups, and also Planet Zoo allows us to place a big group of them in one habitat, so I really wanted to make it full of baboons, especially that maybe I did it quite big as for the actual or standard baboon enclosures. When you will go to a standard zoo, you'll probably see a smaller one for those guys, but because of the jeeps and how large they are, I just had to build something big for those guys. Now, when it comes to the jeeps, I must say and admit, as I did already in the last episode, that I am not a big fan of the design of probably any of the rides in this game. They are very cartoony, they are very large, and this is a problem. And also, for example, the jeep ride doesn't really make sense for animals, for example, like baboons. It can basically go through all the enclosures for any of the animals that you want, and it is open. So the guests are just out for the grabs for the animals. I can see so many things that could go wrong with this, with big cats or also primates that can be quite dangerous. So I must say that it is not very realistic. You'll have closed cars for this, with the windows, with all the, walls and everything, and not just open cars. Baboons can, for example, throw rocks into guests and do stuff like this, so it will be wiser to have them completely covered. So that's not really realistic. The cars will also go very closely to the walls of the canyon, and I also decided to add like a log in between the two walls of the canyon so that the baboons can cross from one side of the canyon to the other, and the jeeps will just drive under this log. And I also know that it is not very realistic, because unless those baboons are trained very well just to avoid the cars, they would probably try to jump on them. And we don't want that. Also, before the realism police will come for me, I know that this habitat in whole is not very realistic. I, for example, made those caves for the baboons that are very high up this canyon, and I know that it will just be a nightmare for the keepers to clean inside of those caves. They have very small openings, they are also very high, so not very zookeeper friendly, but I really wanted to give the baboons some reason to go up there. So in those caves, I actually hid some enrichment items and also this water pipe. So they actually go there to just drink water and to play with some things. So it looks so nice. We all know how climbing works in Planet Zoo, especially in big zoos. The animals don't end up climb as much, and I just wanted to force them a bit so it looks a bit nicer when it comes to, you know, the Jeep ride just driving through this habitat and the baboons just climbing all around the Jeep. So this is what I went for. Let's talk about all those rock formations that I created here for a second. Not only I decided to use something new for me, but also not very new because those rocks are from the base game. To create those rock formations, it's been a while since I've built something this big out of the regular rocks, but I must say that I really like how it has turned out. I decided to go for the tropical rocks because I don't think that the desert rocks looked as good as the tropical rocks for this kind of the rock formation. I don't know, there's something about the crevices in the tropical rocks that just make it look more interesting. And also thanks to that, the whole baboon enclosure would just sort of stand out of the whole desert village that we have going on in this part of the zoo. But it didn't stop on only just rocks. As you guys could see earlier, I did sort of like a palette of different things that I added to this rock formation to make it look more interesting. And I need to give a huge shout out to Eben, another Planet Zoo creator, who really much inspired me for doing this, especially adding those decals of those exposed rocks. They look so incredible when you just add them on the regular Planet Zoo rocks. I saw him doing that for some of his recent builds and I really liked it, so I decided to do something like this as well. Definitely not my idea, so I just had to give a shout out to Eben because this was such an amazing idea to use those decals in this way. And yeah, thanks to this, I like this whole rock wall so much more. And now we can actually see this thing that I talked about earlier. So this grill or this grate that will stop the animals from escaping this habitat, inspired by the Dubai Safari Park, I think. Also, you probably noticed that I had to cut out a lot of this video. So if I am doing something and copying it over and over again, I just decided to cut out those things. This video will be sort of like a longer one anyway, but I think that I cut out more than half of it. More than half of the speed builds because it was just so long. This habitat took me a lot of time for how small it is, but it was a lot of figuring things out, making sure that the baboons will be able to climb at everything, and yeah, just a lot of work. So I hope you guys will like it just as much as you like the Komodo dragons. That one was also a lot of work, so I had recently quite big projects. Maybe the next ones will not be as big, but I like to have a challenge from time to time. And when it comes to the next episodes of this series and my plans for this series in general, because I saw some questions from you guys if I will finish this series before the Planet Zoo 2 comes out. So my question is not really, because I planned 3 more sections for this zoo and I know that I won't be able to do that. So I also planned the Australian section, the Asian section and the South American section. So unfortunately this won't be happening. My plan is to completely finish the desert village for this park. So to do the whole safari ride, to add some shops, some restaurants maybe to the desert village, and also decorate the whole area in between the villages. So we have this huge, very big African village, and then we have this very big I don't know, empty space, and then there is the desert village. So I will have to fill it out somehow and then finish the zoo and upload it to the workshop. So it will have only 2 villages, but yeah, my main focus is just to finish this one. We will still have around, I don't know, 4 or 5 more enclosures on the way of this Jeep ride with a lot of desert animals. There will be actually a lot of ungulates, but also not only on ungulates. So yeah, I hope you guys are excited. I am very excited for this because I have some really nice ideas how to make those enclosures a bit more interesting. Now, you could see me add, and still see me adding some climbing frames. You know that every time I had to build for some climbing animals, I have to complain a bit. I don't really like building climbing frames. I don't know, I don't think I am too good at those. But if I have to, I think that I am better in building climbing frames from some building materials such as planks, wood, some ropes, just basically more artificial ones. These ones I think I can make more realistic looking, but unfortunately they don't fit to many of the more natural looking habitats. I am very bad at creating natural climbing frames. This also comes to the fact that we don't have many natural looking like climbing frame materials in the game. We have some branches, we have some dead trees, but to be honest, that's not that much, and for some reason animals don't like using them that much. They prefer things like planks and ropes. But for this habitat, I thought that only the natural climbing frames would look good. I actually decided to go for the workshop and look for some climbing materials, and I found those dead trees by Mayru. I think you pronounced it this way. This person is actually a member of my channel, so thank you so much for that. And their dead trees are actually amazing. I will put the link down in the description if you guys would like to use them. I know that for a while my dead trees that I uploaded to the workshop were very popular. A lot of people still use them for their builds. But if you still use them, I would recommend you to use the ones by Mayru instead, because they are so much better than mine. So yeah, very nice creation, and I am so glad that I found them because I think that they fit to this habitat really well. Then it was time to add all the enrichment items for the animals and also a lot of different details. So all the rocks on the ground, plants, I still wanted to add plants even though it is a deserty habitat. I will add a lot of dry plants, not too many, but still I just had to add some because this is my typical Caesar habitat. I have to have a lot of plants. And I will also add decals, and I will place them so it looks kind of like wheel tracks made by the jeeps, so yeah, to add a bit more realism to it. And also to basically show me where the track is, because I basically hidden it under the ground, so it can be kind of difficult to spot it. It is so incredible to see so many people coming back to Planet Zoo now that the Planet Zoo 2 hype has started. I have seen not only a lot of players playing, like commenting that they are back to the game, but also some of the YouTubers and the other content creators back to playing, to recording. That is so nice to see. I'm sure that you guys are up for a treat when it comes to the release of Planet Zoo 2, because there will be a lot of content for a lot of different people. I can also expect some new faces to join our little Planet Zoo YouTube family. It often happens with this new game releases. People are just inspired to start their YouTube channel, just as I was inspired a year after Planet Zoo was released. If you are thinking about this, I would honestly say do that, because it's the best thing in the world. I am the example of that. I just love the things that I was able to do and that I'm doing because of my channel. So definitely would recommend it. Just don't go into it with too many expectations, I would say. Don't expect your first videos to be just, you know, super viral and get thousands of views, because it basically won't happen unless you are very lucky. You have to be patient and you have to be consistent to see the growth, basically. I saw many people already during the 5 years of me actually doing this, starting their channels, being very excited in the beginning, and then slowly not maybe seeing as many views as they wanted, as many subscriptions, and they just, you know, left over time. It is totally fine. It happens to all the hobbies. Not every person is built for that. It takes a lot of time to actually create those videos. Maybe you guys sometimes don't realize it, but first we have a building like process. So to build those habitats, it's sometimes days. For example, for me, I am not a very quick builder, so to build a habitat like this, I need several evenings. It is also not my full-time job. I am only have time to do it in the evenings, basically. So I build for several hours a day. Then it comes time to do the whole speed build, to cut the speed build. It also takes some time. Then it is time to record the voiceover. I have never done it in one take, so it also takes a lot of cutting out. I always do some mistakes, or I lost the train of thought. I also really want them to be engaging and to be interesting. Also, that is a very good point. What I started to do after some time of recording my videos, and I saw that it really helped my videos, is just, record the voiceover and then listen to it and to find out if it's actually interesting, if it's engaging, or it's super boring and nobody would care or listen to it. And this taught me a lot, but it doesn't stop there. You still have cinematic shots. It takes some time to, record some scenes when the animals do what you want them to do. Then you have the thumbnail, the screenshots. It also has to be a good thing. Unfortunately, the thing about YouTube is you can have an amazing video, like build something out of this world with some amazing editing and stuff, but the thumbnail doesn't make people click on the video, and then no one or several people just will watch it. So the thumbnail is very important. And also editing is also very important. I know that I'm not the best editor. I know that my videos could be so much better if I will do some better editing, add some really cool things like maybe slower builds, maybe some cutouts in between or stuff. I am fully aware of that, but recording those videos really takes so much time, and I actually don't enjoy the editing part. So after I am done with all this stuff, I just want to edit the video and release it, because the other thing is that also being on the schedule and being a bit consistent with your uploads is also very important. So I don't want to make too many or too big of the breaks in between the videos, and I am doing all this stuff by myself. I don't have an editor and anything or anyone like that. Yeah, maybe in the future I will like the editing part a bit more and try to add some nicer things to my videos, but who knows. I don't know why this video turned out to be a YouTube tutorial, but maybe it will be helpful for some of you. This would be definitely helpful for me when I started, because I think that my first video were so bad that I'm very surprised that here I am now with over 50,000 subscribers. Who saw that coming? Definitely not me. By the way, if you are still not yet subscribed, you know what to do. I actually wanted to talk about Planet Zoo 2, and it kind of, I don't know, led to this topic, but again, bringing it back to my Planet Zoo wishlist and what I want to tell you about the baboons according to that. In my Planet Zoo 2 wishlist, I included something like Prehistoric Kingdom is doing, so adding like subspecies and similar species of animals, and that would basically be perfect for the baboons. But because if you don't know, in the baboon family, we actually have different species of baboons. We have, for example, the Hamadryas baboon that we have in the game, but we also have the olive baboon that I think is slightly more popular in the zoos. But there's also some other species like a yellow baboon or kinda baboon. Some people also think that gelada is actually a species of baboon because it is sometimes called gelada baboon, but it is actually not a true baboon. It is just a very closely related species. But what I wanted to say is that it would be so perfect, because I also would love to see, for example, the olive baboon in Planet Zoo. But because we already have the Hamadryas, I think that in Planet Zoo 2, for example, it wouldn't stand so much chance to be added to the game. So I would just love this thing that you could click on the baboon icon, for example, while buying it in the marketplace, and the game would give you the choice to, for example, buy the Hamadryas, the olive, the yellow, or kinda, or any other kind of baboon. And that would just make the variety of species in the game so much bigger. And those will just be different when it comes to the models. It would just basically be the reskins. I would love such a thing in Planet Zoo. I think that, you know, it has such a potential to bring more different animals that are very similar to each other and otherwise wouldn't have a chance to be included in that game. Other thing is that when I think about Planet Zoo 2, more and more things that I actually want in this game come to my mind. There's a lot of things that I didn't include on my list that I already really like to see, like the collision of the building pieces that you could turn off for the animals to have a smoother, like traversable area in the habitats, foliage brushes, terrain brushes for different biomes. I would love for this build here on the desert map use some other like brushes, for example the dirt from the temperate biome. That would be so useful for this particular habitat and that would be so amazing. But also, for example, more fences. I think that for how many building pieces, animals and also plants we have, surprisingly very low number of the actual barriers that are in the game. Of course, you can create them your own by using the custom building pieces, but not everyone likes that, and not everyone wants to do that. And there's only several of the barrier options, which is kind of a low number. And also animal doors that we could open and close, for example, the guillotine doors for the shelters. That would be also so nice. Okay, while I was talking, I also decorated a bit around the enclosure just to not make it look like there's a huge rock formation in the middle of the desert. And I also created a shelter for the baboons with the outdoor parts that I decorated. So those will be for the baboons that need to be separated for some reasons. Maybe there are some fights in the herd, maybe there's a quarantine for some individuals. Or basically a mother gave birth and it needs to be separated for some time with the little one. I also did the entire indoor of the shelter and I will show you in the cinematic shots that are coming in the second. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's build. I'm so happy to be back in the Desert Adventure Park and to be finally creating my first ride in this game. See you in the second in the cinematic shots. And with that, the very first enclosure of our Jeep Safari ride is officially complete. I just love how this canyon for them has turned out. I love how much they are actually climbing on it, using all of those rock shelves. In the wild, they are actually native to the rocky cliffs and dry landscapes of Horn of the Africa and parts of the Arabian Peninsula, which actually makes this habitat just perfect for them. The Hamadryas baboon to me is the most beautiful species of baboon, but did you know that those impressive manes on the males are not just for looks? They help make them appear larger and more intimidating when showing dominance. Okay, but let's follow our jeeps. Let's see our first ride that I ever created on my channel. So in here we can see the very start of the ride, the jeep is exiting the station and right now it is driving through this little decorated section, sort of like an introduction to the whole safari experience. Then we are slowly approaching the first habitat and the airlock that will prevent the animals from escaping. Then of course it is entering the habitat of the Hamadryas baboons. And I just love how it looks. Of course, when the whole ride will be finished, I will actually record the guest view perspective of this whole ride and maybe turn it into a separate video, we will see. This lock with the jeeps driving right under it, I think is my favorite part about this whole enclosure. I just love how it looks. Watching the vehicles slowly drive through the canyon while the baboons climb, run and interact with each other is exactly the kind of experience that I wanted to achieve here and I love how it has turned out. The guests also seem to love it and that's not surprising because Hamadryas baboon are absolutely fascinating animals. Here's also a quick look into the building for them. So here we have all the backstage areas, night quarters, and also outdoor small enclosures in case they need to be separated for some reason. Okay guys, this is all that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really did. This is something new for me and I just loved creating this one. If you enjoyed today's video and you are not subscribed yet to my channel, please consider to do so. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Ring the bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video. And of course, leave me a comment and tell me what you think about this new Hamadryas baboon habitat. Thank you guys so much for watching, have a wonderful day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!